Welcome all. We're going to prepare for test number 5 with this lecture. We're going to talk about environmental and occupational health. We're going to visit some websites, some environmental health websites, and we'll visit the OSHA website briefly. And then we will take a look at Chapter 10, Public Health Nursing as well. So I am going to go through this briefly, try and highlight some of the information that's going to be asked in the question. So first of all, some of the questions that are going to be highlighted in the test. We're going to talk about what some of the positions that are out there, and there are a lot of them. Environmental and occupational health is a very large field. It's a very interesting field. I've spent a long time working in industry, and there are a lot of environmental health specialists working within industry. And honestly, the main job is really to keep the company out of trouble. Make sure that they're compliant with government regulations and making sure, of course, that nobody gets hurt. Environmental scientists, specialists. This could be people, going out and testing the rivers and lakes to see if they're polluted. They could be environmental engineers that are going out and, solving engineering problems. Allowing the company or industry to work while minimizing damage to the environment. There's a lot of different things out there. Health and safety engineers, health and safety specialists. Again, they'll go in and try and make sure into a workplace and make sure everybody's working safely and following federal and state and local guidelines. As far as the public health practice, these are pretty standard, I think. You will see a lot of times. I mean, some of these are a little. I think I would may or may not include some of these, honestly. Enforcing laws and regulations. Again, that can be, especially every state has a local, environmental health agency. In Pennsylvania, it's called the DOT. Not the DOT. The DEP, Department of Environmental Protection. But every state has their own thing like that, and or group like that, and they will go around and make sure that companies are actually in compliance. As far as the jobs perspectives, at least from a government perspective, first of all, you can see this salary range is pretty decent. Usually these folks have bachelor degrees, but sometimes they can have master's degree levels. And then, of course, the graduate level, of course, are going to make a little bit more money. But overall, it's a very decent field to get into. You can see between 2013 and 2022, so in 2013 there were 37,750 jobs, and there's going to be almost 1,000 more than that by 2022. So it's an increase, but it's not a great increase. And then again, the same thing with the occupational health specialists. It's an increase, but it's not a huge increase. Hopefully we can get some more positions. I would say in private industry, there's certainly a lot of positions available. So that was it really for the text. I don't think the textbook did a great job of covering some of the information because this is really a cool field. And so first of all, we can take a look at this website. I would encourage you to check it out. This is just OSHA, and I put a link to this in our course module for this week. I would encourage you to check out, the different information that they have on this website, especially if you have any type of a concern within your own industry, or if you have a family member or a friend that works in industry that you have concerns about. But there's a lot of really great, fantastic information on this website. All these government websites have really, really cool information. And you can also find, if you go into the training and education programs, they'll have grants and things like that to make sure that, outreach training programs, things like that. You could do something. We all pretty much chose our topics already, but these are good outreach training programs. A safety training program is an important community health program, so you could certainly do something like that. And again, I know most of you already picked your topics, but if you were thinking about changing, this is certainly a good. Or if you're considering doing something in the future, this is a great website to check out. Some additional ones I wanted to check out. The World Health Organization, again, fantastic website. And these are just some of the environmental health topics that they have concerns about. Indoor air pollution. Again, this is more of, they have more of a global perspective than generally what we're looking at here for public health in the United States. Certainly, indoor air pollution is a concern, but not as much as in places where they have to use kerosene heaters and things like that to heat their house, solid fuels. Outdoor air pollution, of course, we all know is a big concern linked to respiratory illnesses. Chemical safety, for those of us that worked in industry, or just for those of us that may be exposed to various chemicals for different reasons. Children's environmental health. Again, they have more of a global perspective on this, but environmental health affects everybody, and poverty is certainly an issue when it comes to environmental health, but people of all socioeconomic levels are affected by this. Electromagnetic fields. I would encourage you to check that out. If you have those big power lines in your backyard, there may be reason for concern, and I would encourage you to check that out. And of course, they have environmental health and different types of emergency situations, environmental health impact assessment. So you can do something like that within your work environment. So environmental factors are things that oftentimes can be changed. So, and if you're doing environmental health impact assessment in your workspace, in your local office, and you go in and you see that everybody's sitting in chairs, you go into the kitchen space and it's all filled with junk food and vending machines and Coke machines. You can do an environmental health impact assessment and bring in all healthy food and make sure people have standing desks or treadmills or whatever to work in. So there are different things that you can do to promote environmental factors, healthy environmental factors within your personal environment. And some other things to check out. Occupational health, we kind of take it for granted here that when you go to work, you're not supposed to get hurt. But in other countries, that's not the case. And part of the driver for corporations leaving the United States and going to other countries is that these other countries do not have the solid occupational health standards that we do in the United States. And as a result, they can pay the people a lot less. And unfortunately, the people get hurt. So a lot of our equipment is being made, iPads and iPhones and all that stuff is being made in countries that do not have very stringent occupational health standards, unfortunately. And of course, water, sanitation, health, UV radiation, all these things are very, very important environmental health topics. And I can't remember if anybody's doing skin cancer. I don't think so for this semester. But all these things are definitely great environmental health concerns. And then one last thing I wanted to talk about, since we're talking about environmental health, climate change. At this level, you're all graduate level, in the sciences. You should, at the very least, understand that the general scientific consensus, this is a very strong scientific consensus, that global climate change is occurring and it's the result of human activity. And if you're going to debate that, you should not do that in a professional environment, because at this point, NASA has all this information now about global climate change. The World Health Organization, of course. NOAA, the National Center for Oceanic and Atmospheric Information. They have all this information about global climate change and how humans, it's actually called anthropogenic climate change resulting from human activity. The EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency. So again, this is a very solid scientific consensus at this point. 97%, 98% of the scientists that study this are all in perfect or in pretty much agreement with this, at least with the basic concepts of this. So, especially the undergraduates seem to think that this is an open for debate, but that is, the debate around climate change is a political debate. It is not a scientific debate per se. All right, public health nursing. Let's take a look at this real quick. Again, public health nursing. Nurses, I think, other than administrators, nurses and environmental health specialists are the biggest, group within public health. And nurses are wonderful. They're fantastic, because not only are they trained in public health, but they're also trained as nurses. They have that very solid clinical background, and nurses are really they're the backbone of the healthcare industry. They know how to deal. Well, hopefully, they know how to deal effectively with people. They have the very good personal skills. They have the very strong clinical knowledge and backgrounds, and then you combine that with the public health, and they're really, really solid part of the workforce. So these are, of course, all the different potential people that might be working in public health. Of course, preventing epidemics. I don't know. I think I would probably put preventing injuries there. Of course, promoting and encouraging healthy behaviors. I think that's probably the biggest one there. Assuring the quality and accessibility of health services. I think that's extremely important as well. A very big factor. Monitoring health status. Going without into the community and checking out. Doing even if it's just to see blood pressure screenings, things like that. And of course, educating folks. Not necessarily going out and enforcing laws and regulations, and not necessarily working on the administrative side, developing policies and plans, although they certainly are useful in that perspective or in that capacity because they have so much working knowledge. But rather than being on the administrative side, they tend to be more out working with the folks, with the people. A lot of positions out there, 145,000. Supposed to be, an extra over the next, what is that, by 2022, 3,000, about 3,600 almost increase. So, it's an increase, but it's not a huge increase. Decent salary, certainly. Nurses do pretty well for themselves. And they should, because it's a very difficult job. And of course, everybody has a difficult job, so we should all be paid well. Okay, sorry about that. All right, I hope this was helpful. I tried to cover as many questions specifically on the test, and I also tried to include some additional information as well. Okay, take care.